failure can be used as our stepping stones to success, learning lessons as we go. Has the fear of failure ever caused you to feel stuck? Do you have goals that you're not currently working toward because you don't want to fail? It's kind of like choosing to fail before we even try. This can be a form of self-sabotage that is often paralyzing. We have to be willing to fail at doing hard things to be able to reach our goals. It's been said that those who succeed are just better at failure. Edison's invention of the light bulb is a great example of this. He actually improved the original light through lots of trials, errors, and failure. He may even hold the record for the most failed attempts before reaching success. Yet his response was, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Thomas Edison may be considered the greatest inventor in history, but he didn't start out as a star student. In fact, he did poorly in school and was labeled mentally slow. His mom ended up homeschooling him, and he has 1,093 patents in his name, which is the most on record. Many of his inventions still have a major effect on our lives today. His top 3 inventions were the phonograph, light bulb, and motion picture. Some of his inventions were group efforts where he had lots of people working for him to help develop, build, and test them. He even used his inventions to form companies including GE, General Electric, which is one of the biggest corporations in the world today. Imagine if he had allowed failure to stop him. He also said, many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. See if you recognize any of these other famous failures. Henry Ford's first 2 automobile companies failed. Colonel Sanders' famous chicken recipe was rejected over 1,000 times before a restaurant accepted it. And then he founded KFC at the age of 65. Elvis Presley said, "When things go wrong, don't go with them." He failed music classes and was considered a misfit. He was even told he couldn't sing when he tried to join a vocal quartet. Frank Winfield Woolworth's boss didn't allow him to wait on customers because he didn't have enough common sense to serve customers. The Woolworth Company that he later founded was one of the original 5 and dime stores and became one of the largest retail chains in the world. It's actually the model that Sam Walton used to start Walmart. Jerry Seinfeld, funny guy, was booed off the stage during his very first stand-up comedy appearance. J.K. Rowling received 12 rejections before her first Harry Potter book was published. Michael Jordan, who is considered the greatest basketball player ever, was once cut from his basketball team in high school. He says, "I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I have lost almost 300 games. And on 26 occasions I have been entrusted to take the game-throwing shot and I missed it. I have failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." Walt Disney was fired by an editor because he lacked imagination and had no original ideas. His first animation company went bankrupt, and he was actually turned down hundreds of times when he sought funding for Disney World, which now makes an average of $30 billion annually. In previous episodes, we've talked much about processing emotions and the effects of not processing emotions. I encourage you to go back and listen to some of those episodes. One effect is the feeling of being stuck or paralyzed. when we don't process an emotion. When we decide we don't want to feel failure, for example, or process the emotion of failure, we stop ourselves from moving forward. This creates that feeling of feeling paralyzed or stuck. That means we fail before we fail. Then we often beat ourselves up for not moving forward, which even adds more failure. So we feel the feeling of failure without actually failing. Interesting how the brain works, isn't it? It loves to keep us stuck. But if we decide up front that we are willing to feel the emotion of failure, we can also convince our brain to try new things, to try to reach towards our goals. We can actually nudge ourselves towards taking that first step because we know we have security within us. We can create a safe place for ourselves, and we even have the agency to choose our thoughts and emotions about our failures. When we take a step, turns out we may not fail. We may even succeed. But either way, we can use that as a lesson to take the next step. We keep learning and we keep taking steps. That's life. That's why I think of it as stepping stones towards our success. We can choose to make our failure a normal part of our success. Since we get to choose what we make it mean, failure doesn't have to mean that we are a failure. Not at all. It just means we were brave enough to take a step and brave enough to learn the lesson that step taught us. We can choose to see it as a stepping stone to the next step, and on it goes. And so in this way, each step becomes part of our success journey rather than our failure. In C.S. Lewis's book, Aslan says, "We will not speak of Edmund's past." If you're familiar with Narnia, you're going to recognize Aslan was often seen symbolic as God. And his statement here is symbolic of how God sees our past mistakes. He removes them far from us when we ask for forgiveness, and we can choose to see them the same as God does in our past, and we can leave them there, far removed from us. Always seeking forgiveness when needed, and be sure to forgive ourselves, but never allow the enemy to use your past mistakes as stumbling blocks for your future success. This book, The Mountain Is Me by Brianna Wiest, does a very good job explaining how we are the mountain often in the way of our fullest potential. It's not about our failures or our achievements, but more about who we become as we overcome adversity. It's about becoming all we are designed to be. We want to end the self-sabotage. We want to choose to support ourselves and look for all the lessons that you've learned along the way. An exercise I often give to my clients is to make a list of all their successes that they've experienced. When you do this, it makes it even easier to give yourself permission to succeed again, even if you have to fail a few times to reach that next success. Remind yourself it is safe to step out of your comfort zone and find the stepping stone that will lead to your success. Until next time, this is my hope for you. You can find me at stephaniejohns.com or on the gram at The Hope Coach. You can also use the links below to join my email list or the forum for one-on-one coaching.